Okay, we're back for lesson 3 of this particular tutorial. We are now going to fill our wedges with color. So we want the appropriate colors for the 12-point color wheel. Then we're going to copy our primary colors out of it and paste them to a new page so that we can save them for our primary example. Then we're going to copy and paste the secondary colors out of here and paste them to a new page so that we can save those for our secondary color example for our color theory in our reference guide. And lastly, we'll fill the whole thing and then add our tint, which is our white, and our shades, which is our black, in order to complete the circle for our 12-point color wheel, which includes primaries, secondaries, tertiaries, tints, and shades. So let's start by coloring our wheel. So we're going to start here with the first wedge. Now notice I cannot select this wedge. I can't select it because if you see the colors here, there is no fill color. So there is nothing for my mouse to grab here. And you can see my mouse, it doesn't have any object attached to my mouse. So in order to select this path, I actually have to move my mouse to the path. As soon as you see that little black dot pop up, that means, oh, look, you're hovering over an object. You can now click to select it. So that's how you select a path that doesn't have any fill color. You need to actually move your mouse to that path. So this first wedge, we'll call this 1 o'clock, we're going to fill with yellow. And if you hover over this swatch palette, and if you don't have this swatch palette open, if it is gone and it doesn't show up in your palettes to the right, you can find all of your palettes under the window menu, and they are in alphabetical order. So I will scroll down to swatches. So the first one I'm going to choose is CMYK yellow. Then I'm going to count 3 spaces in between, so 1, 2, 3. And this path here, again, notice I can't click this object that looks like it might be filled, but it's not. We have to move our mouse to the path until the black dot shows up saying, hey, you're hovered over an object. You can now click to select it. And the next color we're going to choose is red. I'm actually going to move over to this darker red. It's made up, it has a little bit of black and cyan in it to make it a deeper red. Once I've selected that one, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3 wedges in between and click on this wedge here, again making sure the black dot shows up so I can select it. And this time I'm going to select this particular blue. There are several blues we can choose. I'm going to pick, I think, this one right here. So we now have our 3 primary colors, and to deselect those we just click away. But while we're in here, why don't we copy and paste our yellow, red, and blue to paste to a new page for our primaries example. So now when we click inside, because it's filled with color, notice this wedge with no color, I don't get a dot with my black arrow, so there's nothing to select. But when I move inside an object with filled color, I get a black dot, and it allows me to select the object. In order to select more than one object at a time, you need to hold your best friend on the keyboard, the Shift key. So I'm going to hold Shift and now click on the red wedge. And as I'm holding Shift, also click on the blue wedge. So I now have the yellow, red, and blue wedges selected for my primary color example. And now I'm going to hit Control C to copy, Control N for a new page. And because we've already created a letter size page, it shows up in our recent items. So the only thing we need to do is name the file. So this is called primaries or primary colors. Make sure you have the word primary in there. And we simply then have to click create. We end up with a blank page. So we're going to hit Control V as in Victor to paste that object on the page. And now we can save it. So now we will go under File, Save As, and on my desktop, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call it Color Theory, and create. So in that color theory folder that you've created, we're going to save our primary colors. However, see where it says format at the bottom? On a PC, your save as will actually be listed right above the format. We're going to choose an encapsulated postscript. So if you can remember in class, vector, the only file that supports vector format in Illustrator is an EPS file, and that's the file types we want for logos as well. So now that we've got an Illustrator EPS, we're going to save that to our color theory folder. And this second window means that we're not going to save the white of the page. It's going to be transparent, so the only thing that will be placed are anything with color in them. So transparent, click OK. Now that you've saved that file, let's go back up to our files up here to choose our color wheel, and let's continue with coloring our wheel. So now we have to go between the yellow and the red. And so directly in between, we don't want to fill the ones on either side. And this one will be orange. So yellow, red, make orange. The one directly in between the red and the blue will make violet. The one directly in between blue and yellow here will be green. There we go. Now we have our secondary colors. So if I click away, everything will be deselected. If I click inside the green box here, you can see again, now that it has a fill color, my mouse now has the black square, meaning I can click and select it as an object. Holding Shift, move over to orange and click to select it, and moving down to violet, click and select. So I now have my green, orange, and violet wedges selected. And now I'm going to do Control Copy, Control C. Again, a new page, Control N. And it's going to bring up our most recent item, and it's a letter size page. So all we have to do on the right hand side is now change the name to secondary. You can put secondaries or you can put secondary colors and hit create. We will end up with a blank page in which we now need to Control V as in Victor, to paste now our secondaries. Now all we have to do is save it. So once again, File, Save As. And here's our secondary colors. In our color theory folder, it's going back to the last place we saved, but make sure you choose Illustrator EPS in your formatting and hit Save. Again, this dialog box will come up telling us that it's not saving the white background page, it's only simply selecting the filled objects. So transparent is good, and we will say OK. All right, now you already have 2 examples completed for your color theory page in your reference guide. So let's go back to color wheel. So we've got our secondary colors created, our primary colors created. We're going back to our color wheel. And now we need to fill in the wedges in between each of these colors. So we've got our primaries, yellow, red, blue. We have our secondaries, orange, violet, green. And now we have to create what's called our tertiaries. Tertiaries are the colors that are created by mixing a primary and a secondary together. So we'll click on this wedge in between the two, and we'll go with an orange yellow. So between we have orange and yellow, we should have a yellowy orange, and it's actually called yellow orange. Between the orange and the red, we will have an orange red, so a dark orange. There's a couple you can choose. Between the red and the violet, if we click between the wedge to select it, we now want a mix of the two. So that will be this one most likely on the end. Between the blue and the violet, click and select the wedge. And this time we need purple. And between the blue and the green, we'll hover over here and we'll get a blue-green, which is kind of a teal looking color here. And last but not least, we need a yellow-green. So click on the path between the yellow green and choose a light yellowy green. And this completes now our color wheel.